Did you know that Alzheimer's disease and dementia aren't inevitable parts of aging? Up to 40% of dementia cases can be prevented or delayed by changing lifestyle factors. If you're over 65 and noticing memory problems, confusion, or brain fog, and you're terrified it might be dementia, this story will change how you think about your brain health, because what happened to me doesn't have to happen to you. Changing this is possible by changing your daily habits. I'm Harper Mitchell. I'm 79 years old and I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I worked as an elementary school principal for 32 years before I retired. I'm a widow, and my husband Thomas died from a heart attack 5 years ago. I have 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren, and a life I thought I was losing 6 years ago. When my neurologist sat down and said the words that shattered my world, "Harper, you're showing early signs of dementia. If we don't intervene now, aggressively, you'll likely have full-blown Alzheimer's within 5 years." When I heard these, an indescribable fear appeared inside me. I knew my doctor would help me with what I would do, but I had reservations about how I would do it. I was 73 years old. I'd been noticing problems for about a year, forgetting appointments, constantly losing my keys, walking into rooms and not knowing why I was there, calling my granddaughter by my daughter's name, missing the exit on the highway I'd used for 30 years. At first, I thought it was normal aging. Anyone would think so. After all, when you looked at it, wasn't this normal? My friends called them senior moments. But deep down, I was terrified. My mother had Alzheimer's. I watched her disappear over 10 years, and I swore I'd rather die than go through that. I didn't realize until the last moment that talking so big would be wrong. History was repeating itself, and I was slowly becoming like my mother. My daughters noticed before I admitted it. They insisted I see a neurologist at Duke University Medical Center. Dr. Patricia Kim ran cognitive tests, brain scans, blood work. These seemed like unnecessary tests to me at first, so I let them do it. After all, they were worried. Then she showed me the results. My hippocampus was shrinking. My cognitive scores were below normal for my age. Beta amyloid plaques were forming in my brain, the hallmark of Alzheimer's. But here's what she said next that gave me hope. "Harper, you're in the early stages. We caught this early, and I've identified 6 daily habits you're doing that are accelerating your cognitive decline. If you eliminate these 6 habits and replace them with brain protective behaviors, you can stop this. You might even reverse some of the damage." You can't imagine how happy I was when I heard these. Now, I was dealing with something on a scale that I could change and even restore to its former state. So it wasn't something impossible or unsolvable. That was 6 years ago. Today, at 79, my cognitive function is normal for my age. My hippocampus has stopped shrinking. My latest brain scan shows no new plaques. I remember my grandchildren's names. I drive confidently. I manage my finances. Life is now completely as it used to be, even sometimes better. Winning these feels so good. And my neurologist told me last month, "Harper, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You've beaten the odds." If you're watching this and you're scared about your memory, scared about dementia, wondering if there's hope, stay with me, because the 6th habit is the one most people don't realize is destroying their brain, and it's probably happening in your life right now. You'll learn how to change it. First habit, sleeping less than 6 hours per night. When Thomas died, I stopped sleeping. Grief, loneliness, empty bed. I'd lie awake until 2 or 3 a.m., finally fall asleep, wake up at 6 a.m. 4 hours a night, maybe 5 if I was lucky. This went on for 2 years. There were very difficult nights. I thought it was just part of grieving. I didn't know I was preparing myself for dementia disease. No matter how trivial I found it and accepted sleepless nights, things were starting to get serious now. Dr. Kim explained it like this. Harper, during deep sleep, your brain has a waste removal system called the glymphatic system. It clears out toxins, including beta amyloid, the protein that causes Alzheimer's. When you don't get enough deep sleep, those toxins accumulate. Year after year, they build up. And eventually, they form plaques that kill brain cells. This internal conflict develops over time, but becomes a self-consuming situation. Not correcting it produces really unwanted serious consequences for the person. The research is devastating. A study from UC Berkeley found that people who consistently sleep less than 6 hours per night have a 30% higher risk of dementia. Another study from Washington University showed that even one night of poor sleep increases beta amyloid in the brain. Chronic sleep deprivation literally bathes your brain in Alzheimer's causing proteins. This situation, and all the situations that will continue to occur, are processes that have been informed in light of scientifically conducted studies. Fixing my sleep wasn't easy. Dr. Kim sent me to a sleep specialist. We addressed everything. I started taking 3 milligrams of melatonin at 8 p.m. I installed blackout curtains. I set my bedroom to 19 degrees. I stopped watching TV in bed. I stopped drinking anything after 6 p.m. so I wouldn't wake up to use the bathroom. I established a strict schedule. In bed by 9:30 p.m., lights out by 10 p.m., wake up at 6 a.m., 8 hours in bed, 7 hours of actual sleep. I was doing all of these in military order. I was paying close attention to the time and minutes. The first month was hell. I'd lie there wide awake, anxious, checking the clock. But I stuck with it. By the second month, I was falling asleep within 20 minutes. By the third month, I was sleeping straight through, and the changes were remarkable. My brain fog lifted. My memory improved. I stopped that terrifying feeling of words disappearing from my mind mid-sentence. Now every sentence, every word came to my mind. I was completing the beginning and end of the sentence immediately. Adhering to a 3-month sleep schedule had changed a lot for me. 6 years later, I haven't slept less than 7 hours in a single night. And my neurologist says this one change probably saved my brain. If you're lying awake reading this right now, if sleep feels impossible, if you think it doesn't matter, it does. Your brain is drowning in toxins. Every night you don't sleep, you're one step closer to losing yourself. Not doing this to yourself and changing it is in your hands. Second habit, living in social isolation. After Thomas died, I withdrew. I stopped going to book club. I quit volunteering at the library. I stopped attending church. If my daughters called, I'd give short answers and hang up. I'd spend days alone in my house, watching TV, eating meals by myself, going to bed. Without speaking to another human being, I thought I wanted to be alone. I didn't realize I was harming my brain. I had naturally accepted what I was experiencing. Inside myself, I thought this was now my life's normal. Dr. Kim showed me studies that made me cry. Social isolation increases dementia risk by 50%. Loneliness is as damaging to the brain as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. When you don't interact with people, your brain atrophies. Conversation, emotional connection, social problem solving. These activities keep your brain active and healthy. Without them, neural pathways die because the brain sees being in communication with people as a situation where it needs to control the process and maintain its continuity. And it works extra hard to solve this situation. A study from Rush University Medical Center followed 800 people for 4 years. Those who were lonely had cognitive decline 20% faster than those with strong social connections. Another study from the University of Michigan found that just 10 minutes of conversation per day improved cognitive function as much as doing crossword puzzles. Actually, it reveals that the more you challenge and work the brain socially or cognitively, the better it performs. Dr. Kim was blunt. Harper, you're choosing dementia by isolating yourself. You need face-to-face human interaction at least 5 days a week. I resisted. I'm tired. People exhaust me. I don't want to burden anyone. She didn't let me off the hook. You're not tired. You're depressed. And depression accelerates dementia. Get back out there or you'll lose your mind. Literally. I forced myself. I rejoined book club. I started volunteering at the elementary school, reading to kids twice a week. I joined a grief support group at church. I scheduled weekly lunch dates with my daughters. I said yes to every social invitation, even when I didn't want to go. Within 3 months, I was seeing people 5 to 6 times per week. The transformation shocked me. I laughed again. I looked forward to Tuesdays because that's when book club met. I had stories to tell my daughters. My sense of purpose returned. And cognitively, my scores improved dramatically. 6 years later, I'm more social than I've ever been. I have friends, I have activities. I have reasons to shower, get dressed, and leave the house. And my brain is thriving because of it. Third habit, eating a high-sugar, processed food diet. I'd always had a sweet tooth, but after Thomas died, it got worse. I'd eat ice cream for dinner, cookies for breakfast, frozen meals loaded with sugar and sodium. I'd drink sweet tea all day. I wasn't cooking real food anymore. What was the point for just one person? I didn't know I was feeding my dementia. Dr. Kim showed me my blood work. My fasting blood sugar was 118, pre-diabetic. My A1C was 6.2, pre-diabetic. Triglycerides were very high. Harper, high blood sugar is toxic to your brain. Type 2 diabetes doubles your risk of Alzheimer's. Even pre-diabetes significantly increases risk. Sugar causes inflammation, damages blood vessels in the brain, and accelerates cognitive decline. Research from Columbia University found that people who consumed high amounts of added sugar had 30% faster cognitive decline than those who ate low sugar. Another study from the Mayo Clinic showed that people who ate a diet high in carbohydrates had an 89% higher risk of dementia compared to those who ate low-carb, high-fat diets. The mechanism is clear. When you eat sugar, your blood glucose spikes. Your brain's blood vessels become inflamed. Over time, this leads to reduced blood flow, brain cell death, and accumulation of Alzheimer's proteins. High blood sugar also interferes with the brain's ability to clear beta amyloid. You're literally feeding the disease. Changing my diet was the hardest habit to break. I worked with a nutritionist at Duke. We eliminated all added sugars. No more ice cream, cookies, sweet tea. I started eating real food, eggs, vegetables, fish, chicken, nuts, berries. I learned to cook for one. I meal prepped on Sundays, so I always had healthy food ready. My carbs came from vegetables and small amounts of fruit. My fasting blood sugar dropped to 92. My A1C dropped to 5.4. Triglycerides normalized, and my brain responded. Within 6 months, my cognitive scores improved. My memory was sharper. My mental clarity was better. 6 years later, I haven't had ice cream or cookies once. And I don't miss them, because I know every bite of sugar is a bite of dementia. Fourth habit, living a completely sedentary lifestyle. I used to walk every day with Thomas. After he died, I stopped. I'd sit on the couch watching TV for hours. I'd drive everywhere, even if it was 2 blocks away. I'd use the elevator instead of stairs. I moved as little as possible. I thought I was resting. I was rotting. All of these were eating me away day by day. I just thought I was moving little. Dr. Kim didn't mince words. Harper, sitting is killing your brain. Exercise is the single most powerful thing you can do to prevent dementia. It increases blood flow to the brain, stimulates growth of new brain cells, reduces inflammation, and clears beta amyloid. Not exercising is a choice to get Alzheimer's. The evidence is overwhelming. A study from the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise increases the size of the hippocampus, the brain region involved in memory. Another study from the Mayo Clinic showed that people who exercised regularly in midlife and late life had an 88% lower risk of dementia. Even starting exercise in your 70s reduces risk. Dr. Kim's prescription: 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise 5 days per week. Enough to raise your heart rate and break a sweat. I started with walking, just around my neighborhood. It was embarrassing at first. I was so out of shape I'd be winded after 5 minutes. But I kept going, every day, a little farther. Within a month, I was walking 30 minutes without stopping. Within 3 months, I added light jogging intervals. The more I did this, the more I wanted to do it. And the more I did it, the more competent I became to do it. 6 years later, at 79, I walk 5 miles every morning. Sometimes I jog short sections. I joined a senior water aerobics class at the YMCA twice a week. I do strength training with resistance bands. My body is stronger, but more importantly, my brain is thriving. My neurologist says the exercise is probably the biggest factor in stopping my cognitive decline. Fifth habit: chronic unmanaged stress. Losing Thomas was the most stressful thing I've ever experienced. But instead of dealing with it, I buried it. I'd wake up with anxiety. I'd lie in bed at night, replaying our last conversation, our last day, wondering if I could have saved him. My cortisol levels were chronically elevated, and I didn't know chronic stress was shrinking my hippocampus. Dr. Kim explained, chronic stress floods your brain with cortisol. High cortisol damages the hippocampus, impairs memory formation, and accelerates Alzheimer's. Stress also increases inflammation throughout the brain. You have to manage this, Harper, or you'll lose your cognitive function faster. A study from UC San Francisco found that people with chronic high cortisol had 88% higher risk of dementia. Another study from Harvard showed that people with anxiety disorders had double the risk of developing Alzheimer's. Stress literally kills brain cells. Dr. Kim referred me to a therapist specializing in grief and cognitive behavioral therapy. I resisted at first. I didn't think I needed therapy, but I was desperate. Therapy taught me that grief doesn't go away, but you can learn to carry it differently. I learned breathing exercises to lower cortisol. I started meditating 10 minutes every morning. I practiced gratitude journaling. I joined a grief support group where I could talk about Thomas without feeling like a burden. The change was profound. My anxiety decreased. I stopped waking up in panic. My sleep improved even more, and cognitively, my test scores went up again. 6 years later, I still see my therapist monthly. I meditate every day. I manage my stress instead of letting it manage me, and my brain is healthier because of it. Sixth habit: never challenging your brain with new learning. This was the habit I didn't even know I had. After I retired, I stopped learning. I'd watch the same TV shows, read the same types of books, do the same crossword puzzles, have the same conversations. My brain was on autopilot, and autopilot leads to dementia. Even when I learned this, I found myself questioning. Actually, everything being automatic was slowly causing there not to be a brain that would leave it to automatic. Dr. Kim explained, your brain needs novelty and challenge to stay healthy. When you do new things, your brain forms new neural connections. This is called neuroplasticity. But when you do the same things over and over, those connections weaken and die. You have to constantly challenge your brain with new, difficult learning. Actually, the person she was describing was me, until I didn't put myself in difficult situations. Research from the Mayo Clinic found that people who engaged in mentally stimulating activities had 30% lower risk of mild cognitive impairment. Another study from UC Irvine showed that learning a new language, musical instrument, or complex skill significantly reduces Alzheimer's risk. The brain needs challenge to survive. Dr. Kim's prescription: learn something genuinely new and difficult every few months, not crossword puzzles. Those are too easy if you've done them for years. Something that makes your brain struggle. At 73, I signed up for Spanish lessons at the community college. It was humiliating. I was the oldest student. I couldn't remember verb conjugations. But I kept going. I also started learning to play piano, something I'd always wanted to do. And I took a watercolor painting class. Were these things hard? Incredibly. Did I want to quit? Every week. But Dr. Kim told me, every time you struggle to learn something new, you're building new brain cells. You're fighting dementia. 6 years later, I'm conversational in Spanish. I can play simple songs on piano. I've painted 30 watercolors. And my cognitive function is normal because my brain never stops growing. Final thoughts. Harper Mitchell is 79 years old. 6 years ago, at 73, she was diagnosed with early dementia. Her neurologist found 6 daily habits accelerating her cognitive decline: chronic sleep deprivation, social isolation, high sugar diet, sedentary lifestyle, unmanaged stress, and lack of mental challenge. She eliminated all 6. She slept 7 hours every night. She reconnected socially. She cut out sugar. She walked 5 miles daily. She managed her stress. She constantly learned new things. Today, her cognitive function is normal. Her brain scans show no new plaques. Her neurologist says she beat the odds. She's proof that dementia isn't inevitable, that your daily choices determine your brain's future. If you're over 65 and doing any of these 6 habits, you're giving yourself dementia. Not tomorrow, not next year, but slowly, quietly, every single day. Stop them now. Not next week. Now. Your brain is counting on you. And if this story made you think about your own habits, if you're realizing you're doing 3 or 4 of these things, I hope you feel that urgency. I hope you're already thinking about what you'll change first, because 6 years from now, you'll either be grateful you acted today or you'll wish you had.